Hi, Jen here from Jen Michelle Coaching, and today I want to talk about the secret to lasting love, 3 points. For those of you new to my channel, I would love to invite you to subscribe. I release a video weekly. So let's dive into this. I will get this question a lot. What is the secret to lasting love? What do I have to do? It's always anxiety provoking, right? Because love can bring up a lot of uncertainty, and as I've said before, nothing will reveal our internal cracks the way our intimate relationships will. So love is very, very revealing in this way. So let's dive into the 3 points. It's about being in service to the goodness in one another, right? So it can be easy to get complacent in relationships where it's like, yeah, you wake up, you see the same person, the same habits, the same little things that annoy you. And of course, if you're feeding this every day unconsciously, they're going to become, just not someone you reflect upon very generously. And so the secret to lasting love is really often looking at the other person with a sense of newness, where you're really feeding the goodness in them, those little things that they do for you. They're never going to be perfect as long as they're in a human body, right? But those little gestures and those little loving things that really are beautiful deposits over time. And so it's like kind of calling yourself out on your own negative bias or your own habitual thinking and patterns, and opening yourself up to something new and starting to see all the little things that the other person may do to make your life better or to enhance it in some small way. And even if your relationship or love life isn't where you want it to be right now, I always say that there's tremendous power in growing the little things, right? Like if we're feeding the bad, we'll see more of the bad. I'll notice this with my youngest son. Like, what am I feeding? Because I will get worse behavior when I'm feeding those little things I don't like. But when I look to see the good in him and those little ways in which he's showing up, there's this generosity and this integrity and this goodness and this purity that really begins to grow. And I start to see more and more of that coming out in him. And so this is very true with all of our relationships, but especially with our men. So pay very close attention to what you're looking for within your partner, your relationship, or within men in general. Treat him the way, for me, I'm going to use this example and then I'll expand on it. Treat him the way you want your son to be treated someday. Oh, this is a big one for me because it's held me to such a high level of accountability. Having 2 boys who I want to be treated very well someday by their partner has made me hold myself to a lot more integrity in regards to, am I being the wife right now that I want them to marry? And if I'm not, where do I need to adjust that? And so with this has come a very inconvenient responsibility over the years to be a better and better version of myself, and to tune out all of the noise and all of my ego stuff, all the ego games, this, that, the other, and to really ask that question and be in a high level of responsibility with it. And if you don't have children, or this just doesn't resonate with you, another way of saying it is, are you being the best version of yourself in relationship? Are you feeding the highest qualities of who you really are? Or are you kind of just feeding those like moment to moment choices where it just doesn't feel clean? And as a result, you kind of are always looking over your shoulder, or feel like you're carrying a bunch of baggage on your back, or have this low level guilt or incongruencies that pop up. Because a lot of times if we're ruminating, or if we find that we just can't relax, we can start by looking at ourselves and see if our actions are allowing us to relax, and if we're clean, because sometimes it's our own conscience that prevents us to be able to fully sink into the truest aspect of who we are. And this begins with really cleaning up our side of the street, so to speak. And lastly, which I talk about all the time, but I'm going to give a different spin on it, is just telling the truth, right? Being real and loving yourself more than the relationship, not putting your safety and well-being in another, and being very free within yourself and trusting in something bigger than your man, and having a full life filled with lots of different hobbies, dreams, desires that you're acting upon, but you're not just feeding one area of life, but you're really growing and expanding as a person. And if your partner has different interests than you, that's not a threat to you. Instead, you embrace it and you don't try to force your hobbies upon them or vice versa. But there's that healthy amount of interdependence where you're honoring your path and you're allowing them to honor theirs. And maybe you think about this one way and you're not demanding they think about it that way too, but you're holding space for them to think about it in the way they see it, right? So it's like you're not threatened by their self-expression or the way in which they see the world, but you're holding space for it and you're holding space for your own. And this becomes a really beautiful space to approach love from, because you're not putting conditions on it or righteous energies on it or saying, oh no, you need to see it this way and then I'll feel safe. But instead you're holding this beautiful balance for both of you to be in your most authentic and true expression. So I hope this really supports you in any stage of love, dating, and relationship you may be in right now. If this speaks to you and you would love support on your unique situation, please book a one-to-one introductory call with me. I'll link it below. I have an open calendar for the slots and days that are open, and you can just book directly there and bring your questions and reflections to our session to get clarity and just confidence on the direction in which you're going. And I will be so happy to serve and support you in that way. See you all next week.